Alright everyone, it's time for Occult Literature, video number 334, the Devachanic plane. This is a leadbeater work. This is theosophical in nature. 75 pages, so it's an intermediate but on the short end read. Link in the description of my edition of this work on Amazon, second and third links to my books blogs. This will be in the spirituality header. I will eventually make theosophy its own category though, simply because I think there's like 30 different works within the spirituality category that are just theosophical. It's large enough to have its own header at some point. Anyway, this work talks about the sort of waiting place between lives that is envisioned by theosophy. It's heavily influenced by Eastern spiritual thought. And in Leadbeater's case, he was more on the... You've got to understand that theosophy had many major figures, and they all had sort of their sub-thought sort of thing going on. So, like Besant was mainly interested in social movements at first. She had been a socialist prior, and then later on Hinduism specifically. Steiner was very interested in like the anthropological side of things, schisms and forms of anthroposophy actually. Was interested to some degree in theater and art and music and things like that, and how they played a mystic role. And Leadbeater was into the mediumship and psychic side of things, and as an offshoot to that, and there's another work called The Astral Realm, which I'm editing now by him. He enjoyed categorizing the different things, the different experiences and creatures and forms and beings that existed in these sort of ethereal realms that he had delved into through lucid dreaming, mediumship, and so forth, and various other methodologies. Now, regardless of whether you think that that's real or not, and as someone who's had very bizarre lucid dreams and may at one point have accidentally left my body and had an out-of-body experience, you could envision at least seeing weird things on these realms if you categorize them into existence as the Theosophists did. Now, the Devachanic plane, according to theosophy, or at least according to Leadbeater, sometimes there are disagreements between the different figures within these spiritual movements. Essentially is arranged into ascending layers, and so at the lowermost level, it's basically just an astral sort of dream world. As you move up with greater self-awareness, greater enlightenment, greater mystic training, and the Theosophist doesn't say you have to be a Theosophist to attain that. You can also be a Hindu or whatever. It just depends on how fast you want to go and so forth. Basically, any positive religion that they speak of can get you there. Jesus, whatever. As you ascend, you become less mortal, longer lasting, more blissful, less concerned with physicality or faux physicality. So on the lowest level, it's basically like a dream world. You're sort of in the same form. It's not mortality. It's basically, in some cases, it's referred to as being quasi-purgatorial. I can't remember whether it was Sinet or Steiner actually had talked about how initially, at least at the lower levels of training, Devachan, which is this place between reincarnation cycles, basically, at first, all of your negative tendencies have to be burned off. So, you were addicted to alcohol, you're still going to be addicted to it. It's going to take time for that to wear off. For a while, you'll suffer. You were addicted to gambling or something. And over time, you sort of stabilize, and then, the more positive aspects begin. Like an intellectual person would be able to wander around in spirit form, so to speak. They would still be intellectually minded, they would still be able to read and absorb knowledge, although it would be far more grand than in like a physical library, although at least one work said that they would be able to be like in a ghost form, and they'd be able to do that too. Not sure how they actually read it if they can't interact with the pages, but somehow they possess this capability according to one author. With Leadbeater here, this is mainly about categorizing what's there though. How it looks, how it feels, and what beings are there. And again, they become ascendantly more and more spiritual until they basically achieve oneness with everything-ness. And by the way, the Theosophists don't posit, as certain Eastern groups would, that the end goal and the end result of this long incarnation process is non-existence or a sort of stagnance, but rather the opposite, which is all action and all-encompassing ability to do things without actual personal volition behind them. Sort of experiencing everything. It's sort of like the, did God make the universe just to be able to interact with everythingness? It's sort of the same basic premise, only not physical anymore. It's more in line with Hinduism and Buddhism at times. So it's an excellent work. It's quite elaborate. It's a bit shorter than the one that he did on the astral plane, which I'm editing now. This one, again, it's 75 pages. The other one will be about, I think, 100 once it's reformatted, give or take about 10 pages or so. So again, link in the description of my edition of this work on Amazon. It is highly recommended if you're into this sort of thing, in reincarnation, Hinduism, theosophy in general, or the spooky woo side of things. If you want to read about some of the more bizarre beings that are rumored to exist in this in-between lives locale, it has a lot of them. And again, second and third links are to my books, blogs as well. Many other works of theosophy still available. That's about all. Peace out.